Hello and welcome everybody to Around the Battleground. It's a lonely show tonight, just myself. Turns out uh JMac got stuck at work. So you're stuck with just me tonight, and I'll try to make that as, painful less. I was about to say painful. That was a Freudian slip. I'll try to make it as painless as possible. Not a whole lot of stuff to really truly talk about, but there are a couple things that I feel like I could, make a show about. And hopefully we have enough going on in chat that I can kind of talk to you guys and anything you guys want me to talk about. So, I will be heavily looking at chat today on this episode and will be looking to heavily engage with you guys. Uh, we still don't have a lot of information as far as the SNL teams and combines about to start, and I don't know that it's really looking at that. But it'll be an interesting experience with that. So I think we'll cover that a little bit, especially because I am coaching a combine team. Uh, but outside of that, the other things, there's two kind of bigger things. One that ties in with combine, and one that kind of ties in with Smite as a whole. The first one I think that I can spend a bit of time talking about tonight is going to be the hashtag Coachgate. The video. For those of you who don't know, Emilzy, formerly of NRG, now with the Pittsburgh Knights, released a video about the comms from one of their games during the online portion of the SPL. And it was in that video, you could hear their coach, Rowe, uh, n- speaking and making comments and calling some certain stuff, right? And so that led to a lot of controversy between people because at a LAN environment, coaches aren't allowed to talk or interact with their uh, players at all. So why would that be any different in the online portion? Because it wasn't explicitly stated. So it was, something that is a little bit of a gray area for coaches and players. And while Emilzy had stated at some point that he didn't intend for anything to be that he didn't want stuff to not be on the up and up that he didn't know. I think everyone can really pretty much agree that that's some bullshit, right? Because it's it's something that you're not allowed to do at LAN, right? So that's my biggest hang up, right? And I'd love to know what you guys kind of think on this. I ran a kind of poll, and I think it was pretty even, which was surprising to me. Between they did nothing wrong, and then they definitely cheated or did something wrong. But if you're not allowed to do something at a LAN, why would you be able to do it on the online stages? It's functionally the same thing. And while in that one clip, you only hear him really kind of reiterate timers and everything, that's kind of a big deal for a couple reasons. Because taking that off of your players' uh, priority list and their mindset and everything like that, while you take care of that, that definitely gives them a competitive edge because there's somebody dedicated to just do timers and make sure they know all that stuff, right? And then on the other side of that, because you're doing that and you're having them, get used to you doing that. When you get to LAN and you're not able to do that, you're all you're doing is hurting your team, right? So there's a lot of factors that makes it a bad. And while there wasn't a hard and fast rule regarding this, it definitely was one of those things where it was an unspoken rule. Uh, there was an understanding that that you just didn't do it, right? There was a lot of people coming out was like, have we been playing 5v6 the entire time?" Uh, and I don't know. It's it's definitely gray area, right? But it's definitely going towards the illegal side of gray area because there is a rule set for LAN that does have the coach not being able to talk to you, right? So why would you then be able to use the coach during online games, right? And just because it's like the spirit of the law versus the law as written, you get into a lot of that with like card games or board games. They have to like come out with the errata, which kind of goes back and rewrites rules so they're more clear and you don't get really busted interactions with things, right? And that's one of those things where this is like, for people that ever watch a lot of football or anything like that, this is equivalent to the Patriots and Bill Belichick, going into the rule books and going like, well, chop blocks are illegal. So going for like having your tight end or whatever go for the knees of a blocker, right? The chop blocks are illegal. But if we just run straight at them, that's not illegal. If you use your whole body and everything to block, there's certain things where there will be plays that in the spirit of the rules will be illegal, but the rules as written, it's not. And Belichick has made a pretty good career of taking those and exploiting them and like, all right, I'm gonna run this one thing and make sure that when they rewrite the rules this offseason that they're going to fix this. So finding those loopholes. And this is definitely one of those points where by the rules, sure, it wasn't illegal, but it's scummy. And if as far as I know, nobody else was doing it. So that definitely gives them a competitive edge. And it's definitely not okay. And I really I don't know what to expect out of this. Reading chat like, Big R, it's totally fine. There was no rule that said it wasn't okay. I understand it's not a valid thing during LAN, but those rules never applied to online stage. Literally almost every other rule does though. That's the thing. Going through the rule set for the online portion is almost verbatim for LAN, except the LAN believes that like you have to specify like, oh, if the sub's there, he can't talk to you guys in game, he can't watch and everything like that. Like that, there are certain things that do change because of the LAN fight because you have more people there, because just the nature of it. But I don't know. I think definitely moving forward, like we don't have to worry about it really, right? With the SPL. So I wonder if we'll see SML changes that and then combine changes that definitely say like you cannot have your coach in comms in the game. Because that would it, it is an unfair competitive advantage, right? So some teams have coaches, some don't. Then it just becomes like, okay, we're just gonna have a guy come in and bring timers. And then if it is one of those things that happens, you get to land, you're just hurting yourself. I don't know. I don't like it. It feels scummy, and this is like a very low vocabulary. It's like icky, right? It's like, oh, of course you were doing that. Of course you were kind of bending the system to meet you guys. I don't know. Let's see what else. It's that's just a gentleman's agreement at that point, which holds no leverage. Again, I see it, but it still doesn't make it any less scummy. Mukuri, it's lame and like the competitive post says, he blamed other teams for it in the past, so clearly he thought it was wrong. But without a rule, what are you gonna do? And that's what we call the Air Bud code. Yeah, again, if we are a non-emotional, non-reactionary, non-context-driven society, which we're not, you look at this, it goes, well, by the rules, there's nothing that says you cannot do that in the online stage. So therefore, they did nothing wrong. There is no penalty. There's nothing going on here. There's You should not feel any sort of way about it. But that's not the like world we really live in, and it's not realistic. You look at this, and if they are the only team that's doing that, and we look at other rule sets, and it was something that was never put to paper, but was said in words, something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways why it is, bad. But that's it's it's kind of telling too because you look at that, and if that's what NRG was doing the entire time, they were playing 6v5 every game online. And did that ever contribute to their success? Was Zero's doing that during their championship run during season 3? Was that something they did before that, you know? I really gotta wonder what's going on with that, right? Uh, it calls a lot of it into question. It's like, do we now kind of have to put asterisk next to the NRG name? And obviously, so in Millsy's defense that he didn't think it was wrong, and the fact that he played on Obey, and Hazer was like, "Whoa, wait, this is something you did." That doesn't play for me. That's also another thing I want to kind of point out is the fact that Emilzy tried to walk it back like he didn't know what they were doing was skeezy and sketchy, right? And that doesn't play. That doesn't float by me because he's a smart guy. He's played on multiple teams. I know Hazer didn't do that. And that was like a big competitive team for Emilzy. That was a big step up for him. And then when he left there, he went to NRG, and then NRG was doing it. Oh, so everybody must have been doing that except for Obey. Or something like that. Is that your thought process? I don't know. It the way that it was handled at that point too, just I was like, you knew what you were doing. Just own it. Just if you're gonna go that route and be like, you're already viewed as the bad guy. You're not saving face on that. You already kind of Millsy kind of already has that reputation of kind of being like the on the more on the immature side on that. So like trying to like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Like that was like, oh, come on, dude. Like you knew exactly what you were doing. So don't try to play innocent. Own it and be like, yeah, there wasn't a rule for it, so we just went and we did it. We can't help that nobody else. At least if you did that, I think I'd have more respect for you. Like I the that's the difference, right? When Bill Belichick does it, he's like, "This should be against the rules, and here's why, and I'm gonna run it, so it's shown that it needs to be against the rules," right? So I kind of have a base of respect for that because he's not trying to like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. It's legal, like there's none of that from him. Whereas there is a little bit of sense from what happened. At least coming out of a Millsy and like since everybody's jumping on it, like it, it was a scuzzy thing to do. So I don't know. Uh, at the end of the day, do I think that you know they need to be penalized for it? No, I don't think so. Because how do you penalize them for it? Right? By the rules, it wasn't there. It wasn't in the rules specifically. So you can't really do it. But you gotta change the rules at this point, right? You gotta maybe, like, give them make a competitive ruling, slap them on the hands, like, do something like that, like, I don't think you can fine them at this point. Maybe you can. I think a fine would be acceptable, but I wouldn't pursue a fine, right? I'm not gonna say, like, I'm not calling for their heads or anything like that. I'm just like, I would like a a competitive ruling and then, like, an apology from the team, like, "Hey," or, like, acknowledgement or something along those like, an acknowledgement. I don't need necessarily an apology or anything like that, just an acknowledgement by the players and the team, coach, like, "Hey, we realize that this was kind of, like, maybe a scummy thing to do, but it wasn't against the rules, so we kinda just went with it." And here we are. I think owning it is probably a big point of like moving forward. Uh, so that's just my take on that. From a public perspective, sure, it's a dick move. I only saw Hazer pissed at it. So does their competition care? There was a few people who commented on it. Hazer was a big one. I know Hythe commented on it. I think a lot of people kind of steered clear of it a little bit because it was like, you know, it could have been a really big deal. And I think that a lot of it's going on behind the scenes that we're not really seeing. And yeah, there wasn't really precedent for it. So I think a lot of players were just like, I don't know how much I can really say uh, as an active player with Hi-Rez public. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of comes of it. What should we ask a 17-year-old they did something wrong versus a 50-year-old are going to get different answers for why? I think the biggest cause of the SML and the comment. Yeah, I agree. I think, and the 17 versus the 50. I mean, when if you're wrong, you're wrong. I don't know. Like the age thing is a thing, but when you are so highly touted as an intellectual and such a leader as a player and things like that, as Emilzy has been getting thrown at him, when you have that kind of moniker, you are an example. Just own it, right? So, experience with handling a situation, I guess. That is one of the things, like, he shouldn't really have said anything, I think is at the point, we've talked about it in the show a few times is where, letting orgs handle stuff, letting orgs handle public apologies, public statements, things like that. A team manager would go a long way. That's when Rowe should have took the heat for that. Millsy took a lot of the heat, and he should have like, hey, should have said nothing, right? He should have said nothing. At the end of the day, it either should have been Rowe stepping up for his player to shield him, or it should have been NRG, Pittsburgh Knights, whoever. I'm not sure who would take it at that point since it came from NRG, but he wasn't on NRG. I don't know, so that would have been weird. But definitely something to explore here now is Combine and SML. So now we're gonna go one of two ways. There's a part of me that really wants us to move towards coaches being a lot more involved in the game. Uh, you know, I am somebody who is a big proponent of trying out competitive timeouts, having coaches in the headsets and the comms and things like that. I would love to see coaches be able to have a huge impact uh, in the game on their players and everything like that, right? Call plays for the team, things like that. But I recognize that that's a little unrealistic. And I've even talked to players who don't want that. So it's something that I don't really push, and that's something I'm not really vocal about, right? Because I've talked to players and they're like, "Well, here it really wouldn't work. It'd be really chaotic." Okay. Um, so we either go one of two ways here. We either go for they do go and make a competitive ruling where coaches are explicitly not allowed in comp, right? And that's it. We could find out other players were doing it. We could hear nothing more, and it's just this. But that's one thing we could get. The other option is that they're like, huh, they were already doing. We really didn't think about this. Why not? Why not let them in there? Let the coaches go, right? And then it be kind of the experiment for the online stages, you know? Let the combine, let SML test it out for the SPL. Maybe we would get to the point where the coaches could listen in on comms and everything and help and do more and be more involved. But let combine and SML kind of be your testing grounds. It's there for a reason. You can kind of experiment with it a little bit, especially at the combine level, right? You can kind of try to change things. And if you let coaches kind of be involved at that point, um you're encouraging the use of coaches and you're making coaches more vital to your game, which is something that they want to do. One of the steps of evolution and maturity for the esports scene of Smite is getting more coaches. I think there's a total of what, four coaches. You've got Alpha Jackal's apparently signing with the team. You've got Laney, two. You've got Bomb, three, and Biggie. So that's four. So five, because I think Rowe is still coaching. So you have about five coaches right now. So it's half the teams have a coach. And I think it would encourage the rest of them to actually get coaches. Mostly, I think it's just too many voices. I think initially it could be right. You'd have to get a coach. Like you'd have to learn comms as a coach. You'd have to figure out where you need to be. There's plenty of comms, especially at the lower end levels. Right. This is where it would really shine at that combine and SML, and in college. Having been in collegiate combine and SML comms for scrims and things, there's a lot of dead air. There's a lot of wasted time. So as a coach in there, I could be like, hey guys, I could prompt them, I could steer them in anywhere. It would really allow me to do a lot more thorough of a job as a coach. So I would really be interested in seeing some changes like that come through. But I don't think they will. I don't think Hi-Rez uh, it would be willing to really go with a big change like that because I'm not up to date as well with with the other esports scene. I'm not as up to date with them, so I don't know if any of them have coaches that are as involved in that. I don't believe they do. So I don't know that Smite would be like, "Hey, we want to be the first ones to really introduce this, and maybe it gets picked up, and maybe we see coaches have a bigger impact than other esports sides. It makes sense to me to have coaches be more involved, but I come from a very traditional sports background. I don't. So what Bigger's saying is, well, I think from a traditional sport perspective, you can't see their game plan like you can on a mini map. I don't know how a coach can view the game without it somehow interfering with the sanctity of the game. Uh so you just have the coach in comms, just comms. You don't have the coach in the game, and I think that's very easily done. Um, right? It's harder to verify that on the online portion, right? Because you turn low spectator on, oh, and then you're just good to go, and your coach is basically right there with you, and he's calling out stuff, right? Um, I think it's easier to implement at a land stage because then you just have them patched into the comms, right? And so as a coach, I'd be like, all right, I'm listening, I'm storing all this information in my head. Oh, they did just Gold Fury. Did we get a ping anywhere on the map? Let's try to wrap around to Pyromancer and maybe take tier two in mid. Like those are things I would probably start trying to call as a coach to try to remind my team and try to put them in positions like, hey, where do we got wards? Where was the last ping? Things like that. Get all information from them. And I'm listening to them, and then it's about calling plays for your team at that point. I think that would be really interesting. The coaches who really knew the game. We It would prompt these players who are getting older and maybe couldn't play as well, um, to take coaching jobs, and their knowledge of the game would be really worthwhile because maybe mechanically they started to fall off, but mentally they know the game inside and out. They could still compete at that. Like their positioning, decision making is still there. They just couldn't keep up, right? So there's those that definitely exists within our community. And so knowing, hey, if they just did your red camp and I know this team, I think they're gonna go to, I know it sounds weird, but I think they're gonna gank solo with heavy pressure. So be on the lookout for that. And then it happens, right? And it's like, oh wow, damn. There's things like that where I think it would be really interesting as an evolution of the game in esports. Um, but It I think we're a ways away from anything like that happening. I don't know that Smite is really the place for it to happen, but I don't know. I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love to see some really big changes of like comms and coaches and better environment just in all of esports. I think you look at Smite and then you think about all these changes, but then look at what FPSs could be, right? Look at the tactical timeouts. I'm a huge I think tactical timeouts would be great. I think if you have tactical timeouts in Smite, Dignitas might have won world because you get your team to have a breather, you get them to untilt, right? And I know that teams and people and players, like, they don't want that, but I think it would be really interesting to sort of implement the stuff. I think I think some of the best casters and minds of esports come from traditional sports backgrounds because you see esports in a pretty different light when you have a really large traditional sports background. I mean, everybody loves aggro as a caster, right? And like loves what he brings to the table. And I think a lot of that comes from a traditional sports background. And that's another thing. Well, one of the things that makes Smite so great is because they have people from so many different backgrounds, not only sport, like traditional sports, but like fighting game community, FPS community, everything like that, right? I think as a football fan, you should hate timeouts. Give me 45 minutes straight twice. You know, uh, I don't know. I think in esports, a tactical timeout, you get 1, maybe 2, and that would be it, right? And you would make them more akin to, basketball timeouts. So maybe you get 1 short timeout, 1 long timeout, uh, to emulate kind of basketball rules. Uh, but I think you could implement that, and that would really change the game, right? Like rival, say rival when they're getting stomped by E United or whatever, or this last year, right? When they're in the finals and then it's down to game 5 and they get picked off early and like the snowball starts to happen. You take a tactical time, like, hey, we need to step back, guys. We need to relax. We're playing on our heels. We need to collect ourselves. We're letting them run all over us, right? And so it's you go back in, your mind's clear. Okay, we can do this, and maybe that changes the whole landscape. Like you bigger saying, rival never has a 50-50 objective with AJ and Cole. If Jackal is there to tell his team when to go in, when to not, that is a very dangerous squad. That's a lot of, smite smarts coming into play. And I think if you allow coaches to be in comms and everything like that, I think rival wins worlds potentially. It's hard to say because Kabam is also a great coach. So like last year, rival could win of worlds. I think rival could have beaten United because you have Alpha Jackal in the comms being able to talk and kind of run through everything with everybody. Hell, maybe Hazer could do the same with Obey. Like, there's so many questions you have at that point, right? It's a really interesting thought experiment to what could coaches add uh, to esports, and I would love to see somebody kind of embrace it, whether that's a battle royale, whether that's a fighting game. Now, I don't know. I think actually fighting games do that, don't they? Don't you have a coach who can come up and talk to you between sets and things? I guess that's no real different. I don't know. It's it's a whole thing. So there's that. I think I've kind of beat a dead horse. Halo has a coach that comes think bigger. I thought there was one that could do it. You know, I would love to see more coaches. If it works for Halo. Halo's a hell of an esport to watch. Anytime Halo comes on at a high level, any worlds or like big majors and things like that, I always watch and I get sucked into it. It's such a fun game to watch today, even today. Like, yeah, Halo esports isn't what it used to be, sure, but it is still a giant juggernaut, and I think it could a new release for them or something like that. I don't know. It could be great, but I think I've, harped enough on the coach gate stuff. The next thing I really want to talk about is upcoming combine. We have combine starting uh this weekend, Saturday for EU, Sunday for NA. And the biggest deal about this is that Combine is starting on season 5. Season 6 has been pushed back and back and back to the point where the first competitive series for Smite for PC, I think console might have already had something happen. I'm not entirely sure. But the Combine players will be playing their first week of games on season 5. Eh, I don't know how to really feel on this because going from season 5 to season 6 after a week will be pretty big. But it's not like we've been playing on season 6 to start with, right? So it's not like we have a bunch of practice with seasons. I haven't been able to log into PTS like once, right? I have played 0 minutes, 0 seconds of season 6 at all. Not on PTS, no nothing. So it, I don't know that we're really losing that much. I think if we just got season 6 and had little to no time to practice, I think that would also be rough. But I mean, it's going to be that way regardless. At least starting on season 5, we have a baseline where everybody's practiced up, right? There's no excuse of like, well, we didn't know the meta, we didn't know this, we didn't know that. Uh, you know, everybody kind of starts on even footing with season 5, so I kind of like that. But The fact that we're starting the season 6 competitive on season 5 also just blows. Give me season 6. I want to play with Arthur and everybody. I want to play like Arthur won't be competitively available because he's not ranked, I believe, because Merlin hasn't been released. I think that's how that works. Um, I don't know. It's complicated. There's a lot of cool new stuff in season 6 that I want to be able to play around with, new items, new way the map works, and everything like that. And I think having everybody start scrimming for Combine right now on season 5 before season 6 kind of sets a weird precedent. Uh, I don't I don't really get my panties in a bunch about it though, because no matter what, like, oh, we're starting season 6 and season 5, whatever. If you look, there's more like bright side stuff than I think there is anything else. I mean, like I said, everybody starts on the same level competitively. There's no, there's nobody learning the meta. The meta is the meta right now. And if you're experimenting, it's like controlled experimentation because everybody kind of knows what the direction and everything. And then moving from there, like what downsides do you really have? Oh, you want to play with some fixed stuff. You want the balance changes, and I get that the balance changes would be huge. So things would get toned down. It changes your pick ban strategy, but as long as it comes out in a timely fashion for like week 2, I mean, it's got to come out before SPL starts, right? And SPL is like right around the corner. So w- do we really care that much? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it a big deal that Combine and everything is going to start on season 5? There's still no date for season 6, I believe, unless they have put one out by the time this is coming out. But I don't think there has been. There's a lot of cool stuff in season 6, but I don't think anything that really changes or breaks the game uh, for everything. I thought season 6 was the 11th now, only 1 week of Combine. Um, you mostly think that week shouldn't count, but why? Why shouldn't that week count, right? Because I guess it's season 6 competitive, but the first week's played on season 5. I don't know. Like I could see that like logically, right? You season 6 should be played on season 6 and nothing else. But at the same time, what does it matter? Season every the week starts off and everybody's on the same footing. You can't say that you didn't know what was going on. You can't say that the meta changed. There's none of that. You're just playing the same smite you played for a year, and it's like a way to kind of ease in. It's almost like saying that summer league win losses should carry over to the next season. I don't know what the summer league. Oh, that was like that joust league? I don't that's really different, I think. Oh, summer league NBA. I was gonna say that was different. I don't know, like this the summer league's like a preseason though. It's a preseason for rookies. So it has its own thing outside of the season. You'd be more apt to say the preseason game should add to your record. And I'd be like, if they came out and said preseason record adds to your regular season record, I would be like, all right, whatever, cool. We get better preseason games, right? Ye- eh, I don't really care about that at that point. Sure, you're preseason now, but you could make it like restrictions, right? So like, all right, so your preseason is going to feed into your regular season, but in order to keep it kind of honest, we're going to limit your starting players to 20 minutes, and you have to play out of your bench, right? And then you'd have some teams like, all right, well, I want to win every preseason game, so I'm going to put all of my starters on the bench. and have them come in and play, the whole time and make a substitution. So, uh, I don't know. So I get why people say I get why people are outraged, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, well, what does it matter? It doesn't really at the end of the day. People calling for Hi-Rez's head on this, like, what are you gonna do? They're trying to put out the best, most polished patch, and they're trying to get competitive started as soon as they can. I think somebody kind of hit the nail on the head. I forget whether it was Discord or Twitter or where I was at, but I thought like they likely have all of combines scheduled pretty tightly, and so they just can't push it back. They can't add anything anywhere, right? So it, I think there's an aspect of that to this, to where there is a competitive schedule that was made and they can't really change it. It's why preseason was just canceled for the SPL and not moved. Because if there's time to allow for them to move it, I think they move preseason. You don't want to get rid of it because that would have been really cool. So I think we're definitely dealing with some competitive scheduling conflict that really makes it difficult for them to really do anything with. And I think that's playing a larger role than we probably know or even really want to admit. Uh, and that's really, I don't know, all I got to say about the combine as far as being on season 5. I am looking forward to the combine, like I've said here and there. I'm coaching a team in the combine. I'm really excited about. Uh, I don't know. I don't think like our team is out there yet, and so I haven't talked to my guys on whether or not they want me to kind of say what our team is or if they care. So I'll kind of refrain from talking about them until like we play combine and we have our roster set and everything like that, because there's always subject changes to be made, possibly with people dropping in and out. But I will say, the competition for combine should be really good. There's a lot of teams in A right now, and I think the acquisition of the LATAM team, Why So Serial, by Sanguine, really changed the landscape for NA Combine and SML a lot, because they weren't really a team that people thought would get a slot. Uh, and then when they did, it knocked another group of guys out from getting a spot, right? So now that all of those guys now are at the combine level. So, initially we're talking about maybe it was definitely two teams, maybe three teams for combine that really stand head and shoulders above the best. Now, potentially four teams looking really strong. I the NA side of SML and Combine look like it should be really good competition. I don't think Combine is going to be televised or broadcast, I should say, in any way. So I think you'll have to rely on streamers actually doing that. But I definitely would say if you are a fan of competitive Smite this year, it would probably behoove you to follow the top teams in Combine and through the SML. SML has a rule now where if you don't win a game across two splits, I believe, then the top Combine team can come in and take your spot. And I don't know if that will necessarily happen. You can never really guess, I don't know, how competitive is going to go with Smite competitive. We brought down teams, and then we saw, Fumball and his boys struggle to win any games all year. So definitely one of those things where we could see a team, even though we're condensing and we're supposedly getting the best competition, that increases the top and the middle to where maybe now the bottom, which was once strong because it could take on, some more bottom teams, that it gives it like a bit of shake up. But now that causes that bottom team to not be able to win against anybody, which brings in the combine, who then can maybe win, because there's a lot of talent that got knocked out of SPL, not given that chance, and then got into ML, and the same thing happens down in the combine. You have a bunch of players who could possibly be in that SML spot, have the talent, just don't have the right opportunity or ability to get there, and then get have to play in combine. And so I think this year across the board will be the most competitive year for Smite. uh, Between Combine and SML, I'm really planning on watching every level of competition. Combine because I have a team, I want to scout other teams and everything like that. Obviously, SML, I've always been a big fan of SML. I've watched, the last year, and then last year and a half. I think I've really paid attention to the Challenger Cup. And it's my minor league now because there's a lot of talent there who I think could really make some moves into the next level into the SPL, and there could be a lot of shakeup. But I don't know. I think honestly, I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing how SML shakes up a little bit more than I am with the SPL right now. Because I think I have a pretty good idea on how the SPL is going to shake up with SML. I don't know, and it's exciting to get that LATAM team. If LATAM team beats the brakes off of everybody, right? What happens? Do we have a pathway for this SML team to then get picked up into the SPL? Right? Like that would be huge to have a, a SPL LATAM team. That's the dream. I want that. I want that for the growth of Smite, right? We have um we have teams like the Poppies over in EU who did phenomenally well. Anytime they played, it was like 2,000 viewers the stream would get, right? And I think uh we might be losing them to, the shuffle of EU SML, right? Because of how many pros and everything you left, and there's a lot of talent that didn't make it in the SPL on the EU side. So losing the Poppies would be a big deal. We've lost OCE. That was always a big deal. I think, the Smite scene as a whole is, at a huge loss because we're cutting out OCE and Southeast Asia. It doesn't look like we'll have Black Dragons, Gliz, or any of those guys around. It's having LATAM make these steps and see, and going from being, laughing stocks at every LAN, international stuff, at Worlds, LATAM's like first that day, you know, scheduled to the first stuff when people are still getting into the venue, people don't watch, they're just getting stomped to then, oh, they made a competitive game. They kind of made the other team try. Oh, they took a game off of, an actual team. Wow, look at them. And to now we're getting to the point where they could potentially have a team in the SPL. That's a big, big milestone for Smite Esports and the international play. And I really do hope that we do see some revitalization of the international scene for Smite. I really hope that, you know, it's not something that gets lost and forgotten because there's a lot of I mean, we've said this so many times, right? That OCE builds ridiculous teams every year that, if given the proper tutelage and experience, could be disgusting. I mean, we look at Direwolves who took NRG at their height to a pretty good game. Took them the distance and almost was able to sneak a game off of them, right? We see Zilla Esports come in and have a really good young squad that looked like it had a lot of potential and then get broken up. And then this year we have Atletico come in and really look like they could do something and make it a long way. And then kind of, they're playing with a sub. Eh, and then they had to play with a coach. There was so many things that happened that wait, no, coach, was that Mr. KS or Kaiser? I think I'm getting all confused. Whatever. Atletico played with a mid sub. They played with Reagan. I do know that. And I think Mr. KS here was in Signum, right? Yeah, that was right. I got him. I got them mixed up a little bit, but having those opportunities for OCE again would be great. I think there's a lot of talent in OC that it just doesn't get the chance because of where they're from, and that's kind of disappointing. So seeing all of the success that LATAM is able to have right now, and all of the potential there, really just makes me happy. Uh, but I think that's really all I had to say this week. There's still not a whole lot as far as information or rosters or anything like that. We got the sanguine roster for SML, and I think that's really it. We're waiting on EU SML. I don't think we've heard a peep out of EU SML, which is crazy to me. And then, obviously, Combine is a little bit weirder. I don't know the world there will be team announcements. I think it'll kind of be, you know, uh, we'll see who shows up on Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll be able to kind of put together some stuff there. EU SML is going to win Worlds. I don't think so because if you look at it, right, they have Maniac and they have Pretty Prime and Emily 2, and who else, right? So you have an ADC, you have a mid, and you have a solo. You still need a jungle, and you still need a support. And those are jungle is a very important role. Support's a very important role. Um, I don't think that team because then who do you put in there that I don't know if genetics has a team, so that he could be your support. That'd be pretty dope. And then jungle, who do you get? Maybe Fails. Fails has another team. Maybe you put him in there. Is Fails the guy to win worlds? I don't think so. So who else do you get? Frostiak? Is he the guy to win worlds? I don't know. I don't think EUSML wins worlds. I think EUSML qualifies. I think they 100% qualify for worlds, but I don't think they then. There's just too much talent in the SPL right now for anybody in the SML to really stand a shot at worlds. And I would love to eat those words. I would love to see, this talent who kind of fell to the bottom tiers, between Combine and SML to make a run at Worlds. That would be dope. Could you imagine a Combine team getting to Worlds or something? That'd be insanity. I really would love to see something like that, but there's just so much talent at the top that I don't think, there was a point in Smite where we probably maybe could have seen something like that. And I think those days are behind us. I think there has been such a barrier to the top that has been developed that I just don't think we'll see anything else. So, uh, I think that's really all I got to say. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer anything. If not, I think we'll try to wrap the show up here in the next 4 minutes, aiming at that 7:30 mark. This sounds like a nice, really nice round number to end on. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I mean, I'm looking at stream numbers. We're not doing anything gangbusters here. We had about 15 people on Twitch, and we've had about 10 or so on Mixer. And that's pretty big for last minute show. I really appreciate you guys coming out. We really didn't hype this one up, and then at the last second, JMac couldn't be here, and I haven't been able to get anybody to come on the show this week. Everything's kind of crazy with me on my schedule, and then obviously everybody in the SPL trying to get ready to come out here and everything like that. So and gets kind of situated in their own stuff. But hopefully next week we have more to talk about. I will definitely do my damnedest to have another interview for you guys. I think I'll try. Maybe we'll get another coach. Right? We'll continue our coaching series. We'll reach out to Slaney and have him try to come on or something like that. But it doesn't look like you guys have any questions for me. So I don't think I can vamp for, another 2 minutes or so. Yeah, Vigor, right. Remember to follow and subscribe. If you guys want to watch any of the stuff that we have put out, we do have a YouTube. Everything gets uploaded there. So go to youtube.com and look for, I think it's UGC events. I'll have my producer here, Tone, drop a link into the chats. There you go. YouTube.com/UGC events. There you go. That's the place you can find all of our stuff. I am going to try and work. I've been saying this to Tone for a while now, but try to get an audio version up somewhere. We did it with a retake SPL and couch talk SPL. So I think we should do it here. I would love to be able to get us on the Spotify. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I'm definitely going to try to get an audio only version of the show out there for you guys so you guys can consume it after the fact and on the go. Let you guys know about that. I know we need to be better about posting to Reddit and everything too. We'll try and do that a little bit more. I think after this week, I will go in and I think I'll put the Vedium interview out there for people to kind of know us. As you can see, my follow is at the Zach Dick at Twitter. I'm pretty active in there. I give away codes sometimes. I have a lot of fun. I'm actually about to get sponsored by a clothing brand, so you'll be able to get a discount code on that whenever that comes through. That's fun. And then follow me on Mixer. I'm at LHS. I stream on Mixer for a Hi-Rez sometimes, or for fun. And then that's about it. I think I've vamped long enough. So thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully next week we get a big regular show, and it's 10 times better than the show we are putting on today. So thanks for watching, everybody. My name is Zach, aka LHS, and I will see you around the battleground. Goodbye, everybody.